Forests invoke mystery, wonder, and a feeling of respect for nature. The sense of our smallness envelops us once we set out, away from our very controlled civilization and into the vast wilderness. This loss of control sometimes frightens us, makes us think twice before embarking into the foreboding wild terrain where once our control is lost, anything could happen. The unsettling bloodshed at the forest of Ephraim was one such cautionary tale. A tale that would become all too real for those warriors caught inside it. I'm Nathan Collins, and this is the Forest of Ephraim. King David had been betrayed by his own son, and his son had now thrown the kingdom into a civil war. King David was a great warrior throughout his life and knew strategy very well. He knew he couldn't defeat his son's huge army in open combat over the field, but he would have the advantage in the woods, a tactic he had used well in the past. The woods nearby David, on his route of escape from the capital city of Jerusalem, was a forest in the hills of Ephraim. Absalom, in his youthful, foolhardy arrogance, wanting to show his strength in his coup against his own father, led his army after David's warriors into the thick woods. The woods of Ephraim have an intriguing story in the Bible, though not much is said about them. If we go back centuries before this battle in the woods, when Joshua was instructing the land portions for each tribe, he tells the two tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh what land they shall receive to be responsible for. Then the people of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, "Why have you given me but one lot and one portion as an inheritance, although I am a numerous people, since all along Yahweh has blessed me?" And Joshua said to them, "If you are a numerous people, go up by yourselves to the forest, and there clear ground for yourselves in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaim, since the hill country of Ephraim is too narrow for you. But the hill country shall be yours, for though it is a forest, you shall clear it and possess it to its farthest borders." Joshua instructs the strongest tribes at the time to clear the forest, take the land. Now, whether this forest being addressed here by Joshua has to do with the forest we would see later with King David is not so certain. This is because of the somewhat uncertain place of the woods of Ephraim mentioned in 2 Samuel, being near the Jabbok River, which is some distance away from the actual heart of the tribal lands of Ephraim. Intriguing nonetheless, if only speculation. The land that these two tribes are to possess is mentioned as formerly belonging to the Perizzites and the Rephaim. This is worth pointing out as a side note, that the tribe called the Rephaim were a tribe of giants, like that of Goliath. The word Rephaim, in fact, means the giant ones in Hebrew. We also see this mentioned in other biblical passages as well. Just some interesting circumstances to consider going into this story. In 2 Samuel, the big battle between King David and Prince Absalom come to a head in the forest of Ephraim in chapter 18. So the army went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was fought in the forest of Ephraim. And the men of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David, and the loss there was great on that day, 20,000 men. The battle spread over the face of all the country, and the forest devoured more people that day than the sword. Most of this is a pretty typical literary pattern of a battle in the Bible. First tell a brief outcome and then go into any important details of what happened. What stands out immediately about the foreshadowing of this battle is that the forest devoured more people that day than the sword. This is a highly unusual statement. Does the text mean that the soldiers died by exposure to nature? Perhaps soldiers saw the battle wasn't going well and used the woods as a way to desert the battle, where you couldn't in an open field. Or David's experienced warriors just used the terrain to defeat Prince Absalom's army. However, the passage seems to be suggesting that it was the forest, without the sword's help, indicating that soldiers had little to do with these deaths. A further fleshing out of this passage's meaning may be seen as we continue with the story, and the details of what went on in the battle are seen. Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under the thick branches of a great oak, and his head caught fast in the oak, and he was suspended between heaven and earth while the mule that was under him went on. Notice, it is the tree that catches Prince Absalom, no man. And this in turn then leads to his demise. And a certain man saw it and told Joab, "Behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak." Joab said to the man who told him, "What? You saw him? Why then did you not strike him there to the ground? I would have been glad to give you 10 pieces of silver and a belt." But the man said to Joab, "Even if I felt in my hand the weight of 1,000 pieces of silver, I would not reach out my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, for my sake protect the young man Absalom. On the other hand, if I had dealt treacherously against his life, and there is nothing hidden from the king, then you yourself would have stood aloof." Joab said, "I will not waste time like this with you." And he took 3 javelins in his hand, and he thrust them into the heart of Absalom while he was still alive in the oak. Prince Absalom was killed, despite what King David had commanded his soldiers to do. Joab, though, I'm not sure he ever really believed in mercy. But that's another story. Whether the forest had anything to do with these deaths in the woods that day, we'll never really know, I guess, for sure. There is one thing, though, that probably would have passed through the soldiers' minds that day as they saw Absalom's body hanging in the clutches of that oak tree. The words God had spoken through their ancestor, Moses, many, many years ago. "Cursed is everyone who is hanged on a tree." All right, so that's the Forest of Ephraim. Tell me what you guys thought in the comments section. What do you guys think about the forest? What do you guys think? It's kind of a weird, obscure passage of the Bible. There's not really a lot to flush out what all has to do with this forest. Is there something different here going on? Is God like working through the forest here? I mean, God uses nature and other circumstances of the natural world to conduct his plan through miraculous means. But what do you guys think about the forest? Do you guys think it's just talking about how the soldiers use the terrain? Do you think something else is going there? And kind of give me your reasons as to why you think the beliefs that you have.